Part of this video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. So I find Americans a little hard to understand these days. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's this. Ranch dressing. They put it on everything. Ranch this, ranch that. You gotta understand, over here in Germany, we don't even have ranch dressing. So I had to spend around 15 bucks to import this bottle. And look, I don't know what I was expecting, but this stuff, it tastes, oh. Apologies for that, but this tastes absolutely horrendous. The flavor, the texture, I like absolutely nothing about this. But I simply can't imagine that the US, an entire nation that is obsessed with food, is in love with a sauce that tastes like this. So for this video, I have one ambitious goal. You see, I think there must be some kind of misunderstanding. I want to fix ranch dressing, or at least the way I understand ranch dressing. And with the right tweaks, I believe we can turn this abomination into a homemade sauce that you and I can actually enjoy. First, we need to talk to a foodie from America whose opinions I can trust. And that foodie is none other than Mishka from Mishka Makes Food. He's a fantastic chef and content creator from New York who's amazing with macro-friendly, home-friendly recipes. So we met up online, and as soon as Mishka and I got talking, I knew I found the right person to solve this mystery. Can you help me understand, like, why are Americans so obsessed with ranch? What is the deal?
Okay, I think a lot of cultures actually do have that sauce that's like, that shit tastes good on everything. And like, for a lot of people, that's what it is. If you back up a little bit and you just think of it as like, what is ranch? Like, what category of sauces is it? It's slightly acidic, it's super creamy, and it's fatty. And it has like big flavor. It's got peppercorns, it's got garlic, it's got onion. So when you think of it in like that bigger picture, you can kind of dip anything into it and it tastes decent. I don't know, if you don't like vegetables, you dump ranch all over it and then you feel like you're eating healthy, you know? Like, it makes it taste like fast food.
Interesting. I feel like that already cleared up a lot of things. The everything sauce hypothesis makes a ton of sense to me, actually. Over here in Germany, a lot of people drown bad food in Maggi seasoning, or when I lived in China, many people claimed that they can eat an old sock as long as you put enough lauganma on it. The difference, of course, is that Maggi and lauganma actually taste pretty great. This, on the other hand, I truly hope I never have to put that in my mouth again. But even for this issue, I feel like Mishka had a pretty reasonable explanation. I have purchased a bottle of ranch for obscene amounts of money over here, and it tastes horrible. Am I missing something?
This is like gonna get the Americans in the chat mad at me. Hidden Valley Ranch, like, first of all, is the OG ranch. Like, that is, that's actually the brand, the first ranch. It's the first ranch.
Yes.
Hidden Valley Ranch is just not good. Like,
no,
it's not a good sauce, in my opinion. It's like gloopy. There's not enough herbs in it, and it's filled with all kinds of stuff and the like additives, and the calories are like out of control. I think it's objectively a bad sauce. I also don't like the shelf-stable stuff.
Wait, hold on. You just said the shelf-stable version. Does that mean there are other non-shelf-stable versions?
They're definitely less common, but a lot of times if you go into, say, like a Whole Foods or like a higher-end grocery store, they'll have fresher made in the refrigerator section dressings.
And those would already taste better?
Yeah, 100%. And I would even say there are some shelf-stable ones that are a little bit tastier than Hidden Valley. There are lower notches, but they're the king of like the bad ranch, in my opinion.
The best bad ranch?
The best bad ranch, yes. And that, my friends, was exactly the information I'm looking for. I think I'm starting to make sense of this ranch thing, and I promise we're getting to the bottom of things and making an incredible DIY ranch at home. But first, let me share a word from this video's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep are true experts at helping you and me get great sleep so we're sharp, focused, and full of energy. How do they do it? Well, for starters, with this. The Manta Sleep Mask. You know that feeling when you just need a nap, but all that light creeping in keeps ruining everything? Well, me too. I used to think daytime naps were impossible for me until I got my hands on this. The Manta Sleep Mask is a game changer. This is not a flimsy airline mask. This one is fully adjustable, actually blocks out 100% of light, and feels like a hug for your face. Those eye cups, zero pressure on your eyes, so you can actually blink and move without feeling like you're trapped in a cave. I've been using this for naps,
on flights, and now with the days getting longer again, I know this is gonna save me from waking up at 5:30 a.m. Let's just say my sleep game is now elite. If that sounds good to you, make sure to check the link in the video description and use code Andong to get 10% off. If you like getting a good night's sleep, don't sleep on Manta Sleep. Thank you, Manta Sleep, for sponsoring this video. Hidden Valley Ranch, this brand is the original ranch. So I figured it's gotta be good. But turns out this is just one brand making inferior, shelf-stable ranch. And apparently it's not even hard to do better at home. Have you ever made your own ranch? And if yes, do you have any advice?
100% I've made my own ranch.
Was that good?
So it was good, but
yeah,
it's almost a different sauce. I think if you reshape how you're contextualizing ranch, you can think of it as like some of the other big, like tangy, creamy sauces, dairy-based sauces from around the world. Tzatziki or like raita. If you think of ranch from that angle, like you're making one of those sauces, but with ranch flavors, I think it really helps you think about ranch in a different way and what it could be. When I make it from scratch, I think it's a must is using like buttermilk is fantastic in it. Back in the day, it used to be roughly equal parts buttermilk, sour cream, and mayo, which does give you like a much thinner in comparison to like a Hidden Valley Ranch. But that sauce is delicious. Plenty of fresh dill is like the number one thing. And then like I think you can fold in some chives. 100% you have to use dried onion and garlic. Like doesn't taste like ranch unless you use the dried stuff. I like lemon zest. If you've tried the ranch, it doesn't taste lemony, you know, but I do think like adding a little bit of that it just gets your taste buds moving. It makes it a little zippier. And then everything tastes better with MSG in it, especially like creamy sauces.
I was gonna get to that.
Yeah, I guarantee you if you flip around that bottle of Hidden Valley Ranch, whether they call it MSG or yeast extract or whatever they're trying to hide because a lot of Americans are afraid of MSG. Yeah, the MSG gives it that super savory quality.
I feel like the texture looks pretty good, even though I'm not a huge fan of the chunks of herbs in there, but that is okay because this is raw ranch after all. I'm gonna call it raw ranch because I used like fresh ingredients. Let's do a little dab and give everything a try. So here it is. Oh, that was a sloppy way to eat it, but this stuff tastes incredible. You got fresh dairy, fresh herbs, a little bit of tangy richness from the mayo. Honestly, I feel like comparing it to this stuff wouldn't even be fair. It's a completely different ballgame. This is so much better. But, and yes, there is a but, it also just kind of feels like a sour cream dip, like maybe a sour cream with chives, that kind of thing. If you know German, I'm getting serious Kräuterquark vibes from this stuff. And to be completely fair, I feel like that's the only truly positive thing I can say about Hidden Valley Ranch, is that this stuff is specifically its own thing. It's not just a seasoned sour cream or mayo. Not at all, whatever that's worth. And while I love this raw ranch we just made with Mishka's help, thanks buddy, I hope you're watching, I feel like we still haven't quite reached the final level of homemade ranch. Let me quickly explain. Ranch dressing was actually invented by a guy named Stephen Henson in the 1950s. He used to work in plumbing and he made this sauce for his crew of workers to go with steak back when he worked on projects in Alaska, of all places. Back then, he didn't call it ranch dressing, though. That came much later when he opened a restaurant in an actual ranch in California, and that was called, you guessed it, the Hidden Valley Ranch. That's where the name is from. And yes, that is where he served his famous sauce, quite similar to the raw ranch we just made, and it quickly grew to be a signature highlight you could get at his restaurant. Customers were even buying it by the jar at the restaurant to take home, and being a smart guy, Henson came up with a dry mix people could buy and then turn into a dressing at home with the addition of buttermilk, sour cream, and mayo. And that dry mix, it sold like hotcakes. In fact, it sold so well that eventually it took over Henson's entire business operation. So of course he starts a mail order business sending little seasoning packets across the US, and eventually he even closed the restaurant, opened a factory, and started solely focusing on selling dry ranch dressing mixes in packets. Fast forward a little bit, Henson retires, the company eventually gets bought by Clorox for some reason and grows into a US-wide phenomenon, with ranch packets selling in supermarkets across the country. And it was actually only in the mid-1980s, so a good couple of decades after ranch
ranch's invention when shelf-stable Hidden Valley Ranch appears on the shelves. But what also appeared on the shelves were dozens of competitors, all claiming to be the best ranch dressing in the country. And while shelf-stable ranch, or as Mishka mentioned, there's also fridge ranch, while those were becoming the primary form of ranch consumption, the seasoning packets you can actually buy to this day, and many people swear these are much, much better than the shelf-stable stuff. Should we find out? I think we should. Well, hello there. For some reason, I actually feel quite hopeful about this. Interesting. Apparently, all you need to make this is some sour cream. Well, that was a stunt that was definitely worth spilling sour cream over my computer. But hey, at least it came out super clean. And then this seasoning packet is for about 2 cups of ranch. So half of this should be okay for this. Maybe a little more for good measure. So we can actually get all of that natural ranch taste. By the way, I'm adding this to what was sold as creme fraiche in Germany. Why? Because sour cream in Germany has 10% fat and around 30-ish, a little under that in the States. So I use creme fraiche because that also has around 30% fat. And look at this. Yo, that is so much thicker than the one from the bottle. I'm obviously not an expert, but I don't think ranch should be like that. Actually, hold on a second. I feel like I should thin it out with just a little glug of buttermilk so we can get the texture right. I feel like this looks a little more appropriate because as far as I understand, at least ranch should be pourable. Anyway, let's give this a little taste. I mean, big improvement compared to the shelf-stable stuff. For sure. The taste is very rich. I'm pretty sure that's because I use creme fraiche. But hey, honestly, this is not bad. You know the green Pringles can, the sour cream Pringles? It tastes like that without the Pringles. It also does have a little bit of that distinct ranch flavor I was talking about earlier, even though this does also have some sour cream vibes. Anyway, since this tastes so much better than the shelf-stable stuff, and of course paired with the convenience of a ranch seasoning packet like this, I feel like this is the ultimate way to go for making ranch. Just as it was when ranch was invented like 70 years ago. Even if you want to make ranch at home, of course you could make a raw ranch just like we did before and it's gonna taste great, but I believe we can make our own ranch seasoning packets. With a little help from the ingredient list on this box, I think we have a shot, so let's give it a try. So it all starts with a super interesting ingredient that you could leave out, but I think it's super helpful, and that is maltodextrin. It's basically a super fine powder made of pure carbs. The reason you can buy this quite easily is that a lot of gym bros use this before their workouts, and it's almost completely neutral in flavor, maybe just mildly sweet, but that's it. It's actually the #1 ingredient in store-bought ranch dip mixes, so yeah, its main role is actually as a bulking agent. It helps all the other ingredients stay evenly suspended throughout the mix, giving us a more consistent blend. It does also slightly improve the texture, making the final result a little creamier. Again, totally optional, but quite useful. Now next up we got dried buttermilk powder. This is what gives us that tangy dairy note, super important for a good ranch. To enhance that acidity even further, I'm adding a little bit of citric acid powder. Then for that signature ranch flavor base, we're using garlic powder and onion powder, classic. Now let's talk herbs. The star here of course is dill, but we're also adding a little bit of dried parsley, dried chives, a bit of dried tarragon for a touch of fanciness, you know, and just a tiny bit of dried mint. The last two are quite subtle, but I think they add a nice touch. Then we're gonna go in with a generous amount of pepper because pepperiness is actually quite important for ranch. And where there's pepper, there's salt, so of course we're adding that. Then to amp up the umami, we're throwing in some MSG, obviously. Now here's another super interesting addition, vegetable broth powder. This is a tip from my buddy Nathan, who used to make ranch in commercial kitchens, and he swears this is the key ingredient. And I kind of agree. It gives us that slightly mysterious, generic vegetable flavor that makes ranch taste less like just herby sour cream and more like an actual ranch product. Now blend everything together until it's super fine, fully combined, and evenly mixed. And there you have it, your DIY ranch dressing dry dip mix. This should store, I don't know, pretty much indefinitely, I guess. And then to turn this into an actual ranch dressing, all you need is a little dairy. I'm using crème légère this time. Let me explain that. That's a crème fraîche, but a light, fat-reduced version. Why that? Well, it has a little less fat for now, but more importantly, it is actually thickened with a bit of starch, which does help improve the texture of our overall ranch, I found. Now, optionally, I'm adding a generous squeeze of mayo. You can add a little or a lot, up to you. And of course, a good amount of our dry ranch mix, around 1 to 2 tablespoons per cup of cream. Stir that in and bada bing bada boom, you've got homemade ranch in under 30 seconds. Of course, it's ready to eat as soon as you mix it, but if you let it sit in the fridge for a few hours or even overnight, it's gonna taste even more like ranch. So here's the one I made. It's rested in the fridge for around 2 hours and I can't wait to put it to the test. This smells, I don't want to say good because good is not the right word. It smells right. It smells like ranch. You guys know the drill, a little dab here. I don't want to sound biased, but I think texturally this is honestly the best of the ranches we've had so far. It's perfect. I'm very happy with this. It really kind of is the perfect in-between solution. Fresh enough because it's made with real dairy, but also kind of like, I don't want to say fake, but synthetic enough to feel like an actual ranch. Objectively speaking, I feel like the raw ranch would win, but if you're looking for that distinct ranch vibe, this is it. Plus, it's so incredibly convenient to make. Just some powder and some sour cream and boom! But this has not actually been the ultimate ranch test yet, because yes, there is one, and for that, we have to go back to Mishka for some sage advice one last time.
The ultimate ranch test, I feel like I'm gonna go with like a baby carrot. If you make a baby carrot taste good enough that someone who doesn't like vegetables wants to eat another baby carrot, I think that's a really good test. There's a few other classics. You could dunk a chicken nugget. That's like a super classic. You know, that's also a great test, a chicken nugget, or like a bad slice of pizza. Go get the worst slice of pizza that you know from around you and drizzle ranch all over it and see if it tastes good. And if it tastes good, then I think you've got a winner.
Alrighty then, so here we got our raw ranch, here we got our DIY dry mix ranch, you know which one I'm talking about, so let's start tasting. Okay, I'm just using small carrots because baby carrots actually don't exist. Look it up. We're gonna try the raw ranch first here. Oh yum. Really good. Dude, that lemon zest, wow. DIY dry mix ranch. More of that MSG punch. I like it. Really not bad, even though I gotta be honest, for this round, the raw ranch wins. So here we got some honestly pretty abysmal looking chicken nuggets, and I expect exactly nothing. But for science, I have to verify that first. Honestly, not as bad as I thought. Wow. What the hell is wrong with my taste buds? No? Okay. But now one quick dunk into the raw ranch. It's okay. It's not great. Really not sure about this. Let's try the dry ranch. Give this a try. I'm gonna finish this nugget. We took a very mediocre nugget and we made it pretty damn decent. I think that's an okay result. Honestly, for this round, I don't exactly know why, but the raw ranch didn't work at all, but then the dry ranch, that kind of did super well. So round 2 goes to the dry ranch. I feel like this has gotta be the ultimate way to determine how good a ranch dressing really is. Because honestly, one thing I left out during that little history lesson is that ranch dressing really rose to fame in the United States when Domino's Pizza added it to their menu, and a lot of people were getting Domino's pizza and dipping shitty pizza crusts into ranch dressing. So maybe we can recreate that fantastic experience with this absolutely terrible, terrible looking pizza. It really doesn't look very good, does it? I don't think we should dip this. Instead, I feel like we should put a little bit of ranch on the piece of pizza. First, a bite from the tip. My God, that's a bad pizza. You know how they say there is no such thing as bad pizza because even bad pizza is sort of good pizza? This tastes so bad. I'll try dipping the crust now, and that's stage 2. That works a bit better. Again, I feel like raw ranch is not a good match here. The zestiness I loved so much with the carrots tastes terrible here. Not working at all. But hey, the real test, of course, is how is it gonna taste with the dry ranch? I'm just gonna dip the tip. Now we're talking. Let's do a crust dip. Here goes nothing. I can't tell you exactly what's happening here, but somehow this ranch, the dry ranch, not the raw ranch, is truly turning a terrible pizza, an inedible pizza, into something that's still not good, but passable. Passable. Like, I can eat this pizza with this sauce. Without the sauce, this is almost a pizza where I'm gonna go no. Except with ranch. There you have it, guys. Mishka was right. Ranch makes terrible food taste decent. And I guess my final takeaway is that if you guys are dipping any kind of like raw or fresh ingredients, make a raw ranch. Add some lemon zest. It's gonna work super well. But if you're eating some fast food and you wanna elevate it, if that's the right word, then make a ranch from a seasoning packet. Either buy one or make your own seasoning packet. You know how now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.